You're watching the FARC Elite Series, powered by Smash Beer on OEN. Brought to you this week by Vicker Collision and Glass, the official auto repair center of FARC Racing. Here are the highlights of the Vicker Collision and Glass 200, the feature race at the Salem Speedway, race 47 of the championship. Ryan Matthews takes the Marlisle pole, and the 5 bonus points to go with it, gaining a little bit of an advantage on Jim Hayes, who failed to make it out of the sprints. Bigsby Foot, who finished second in Sprint 2, qualified on the outside of the front row, held off Kurt Walker, and then got by Ryan Matthews to take the lead for himself on lap number 6. As we've seen many people demonstrate, the high line is often the way to go here at Salem. Foot's teammate Rip Tyler follows through to second, but Tanner Clayson has a problem, slows down on the track, and then gets put into the wall by Lucas Sweeney on lap 16, and here come the rest of the field. Not much room to get around accidents, and some of the leaders got involved. Rip Tyler committed to the bottom, but the inside was blocked. He tried to move back up to the outside, but got clobbered by oncoming traffic. Rip Tyler is going to go out of the race, and Frank Azure, who came into this race as the Rookie of the Year leader, would finish dead last. The entire field pitted. Jason Bates took over the lead, but he's swamped with all that traffic that got caught a lap down in the pits. Joel Rodriguez gets turned around by Jack Dempsey. Kenny Brillen goes into the wall, and that would be car 20 out of the race. Kate Taylor in the 125 also involved. In this second Vicker Collision and Glass caution, Libby Bell goes out of the race with a suspension failure, and Ryan Matthews goes up in smoke. Matthews would be relegated to 36th, a very slim advantage over Jim Hayes. Kelly Splicen took over the lead, but the field stacks up behind her. Car 96 goes into the wall, and then she gets flipped over by AJ Young. Kelly Splicen, in an instant, goes from the lead to sliding down the track as a huge pileup breaks out behind her. Here's another look at it from on top of the stand. Splicen seemed to have gotten a terrible start. Monroe was stuck right behind her, and the rest of the field stacked up from there. And that's at least 15 cars that have taken some kind of damage in this wreck. Again, Salem is a very narrow track, and you don't have too many options when a wreck breaks out in front of you. Henry Santos and the X2 snuck by and took over the lead, but he comes into the pits for a routine stop. This would leave Monica Rook in car 25 with the lead. Vincenzo Focusato cuts down a tire and has to pit shortly after the restart, and then leaving the pits, he gets caught up in this mess, started by contact between Allie Riggs and Kate Taylor. Focusato goes out of the race. He was second in the Rookie of the Year standings. He's going to gain a little bit of ground on Frank Azure, though, as we see contact between Ryan Griffin and Laura Ocean. That seems to have cut down one of Griffin's tires. Robert Nelson goes into the wall. Brian George reacts and hooks Michael Matchgull into the wall. Tommy Ashby and Allie Riggs caught up in this as well. And that's another Vicker Collision and Glass caution at about lap 47. More pit lane shuffling has put Harry S. Anola in the lead. We're only at lap 52, and we are already down to 8 cars on the lead lap. And the opening laps of this race are still very eventful as Kurt Walker hits the wall, but right behind him, J.W. Lester tags the wall as well, and then he gets helped around by Lawrence Burr. But in a welcome departure from the norm of tonight's race, nobody hits J.W. Lester, and he gets back going. Ryan Griffin and Laura Ocean are going to come around and rejoin the tail end of the lead lap. Harry Asanola continues to lead, but the battle for second heats up between Henry Santos, Todd Stater, and Monica Rook. At about lap 60, Tanner Clayson hits the wall and goes around with a nudge from Tommy Ashby, as if Tanner Clayson hasn't had enough problems tonight. Ryan Griffin, after being a lap down a while ago, has now gotten himself back up into third place, but then he puts himself into the wall and loses the spot to Henry Santos. Good job. I'd also like to say good job to Tommy Ashby and Lawrence Burr, who get together as Ashby was leaving the pit lane. Allie Riggs and Lucas Sweeney get swept up in it. Lucas Sweeney in the Griesberger number 8 has a lot of damage to the front end of that Lennard, and he's going to go out of the race. Henry Santos leads on the restart, but it's a hornet's nest right behind him. Contact between Joel Rodriguez and Isaac Leitner is going to put Monica Rook and Ryan Griffin in the wall. Alex Witt in the 05 also gets turned around, and the backstretch is briefly blocked. Zach Webster, the Sprint 2 winner, tries to get through this mess, but then he gets turned around entering turn 3 by Radomir Stanichev. Fortunately, with everybody piled up on the backstretch, Webster was clear to get going again. After the restart, Todd Stater hits the wall, but then behind him, Jason Bates is going to get a bump from J.W. Lester, and he's going to go into the wall, bringing out the 10th Vicker Collision and Glass caution on lap number 84. You saw Michael Madrigal get hooked into the wall by the 2. That's going to take the pie car out. After the restart, Radomir Stanichev puts Cade Taylor into the inside wall. Stanichev bounces back onto the track and causes another huge pile-up. Zach Webster and Kevin Monroe get swept up in it. Monroe, trying to keep himself in championship contention, goes out of the race, as well as Jason Bates. The last 20 laps were not kind to Bates. He would finish 22nd. After the restart, Robert Nelson has a very hard hit into the end of the pit wall after being turned by Tommy Ashby. Nelson looked like he was hurting quite a bit as the medical crews attended to him. We'll have to wait for more information on Nelson's condition as we see another mess caused by contact between Jessica Graham and Kurt Walker. Lap 109, you just saw almost all the remaining cars take the restart. Laura Ocean is the race leader, and she gets a very good start over Henry Santos. Santos gets put into the wall by Kelly Posadas in the 88, and he's going to drop to about 5th. But then Posadas gets a taste of her own medicine as Todd Stater rides the back of the 88 all the way into the inside wall. AJ Young in the 15 had a lot of speed during this run, despite the removal of the hood on that car. He is running 7th. The first car 1 lap down at the moment, and he's mixing it up with the leaders, almost putting the 25 of Monica Rook into the wall. But Young had a reason to fight hard. He was in a position battle with the 5-0 of J.W. Lester. Laura Ocean, searching for her 2nd win of the season, gets a bit loose. Monica Rook zips around the outside and takes over the lead, as Ocean was wrestling with the lapped car of Tammy Barnton. However, the action would be interrupted by J.W. Lester and Todd Stater chasing each other into the wall. A.J. Young gets clipped and goes for a spin, and Todd Stater hits the 15 one more time for good measure. The leaders pitted once again. Harry Asinola took the lead back. Todd Stater is now a lap down. Lap 156, Monica Rook gets turned around by Henry Santos. They would both continue without too much of a problem, but I don't think Big Mac Racing is going to be too happy with the X2 crew. Harry Asinola continues to lead with Laura Ocean hounding him, and AJ Young trying to get back on the lead lap still. Laura Ocean peaks low in turns 3 and 4, but then she starts to lose the front end of the car and has to back off. She fell into the clutches of Henry Santos, who almost turned her around as well. Henry Santos still playing very rough, not seeming to care about self-preservation, especially in the best run of his career. Tammy Barnton brings out the 16th and final Vicker Collision and Glass caution by blowing up and coming to a stop on the apron. Harry Asinola continues to lead under 30 laps to go, and running a defensive line as Henry Santos nips at his heels. In the meantime, Enola's teammate J.W. Lester gets into the back of A.J. Young, the man that he had been battling for the latter half of this race. That's going to take the both of them out. Enola dips low, Santos sees an opening on the outside, and lunges past the 45 into the race lead. Santos finally realizes, hey, I actually have the fastest car on the track, so I don't have to stop everyone else from finishing. Speaking of not finishing, Todd Stater did just that. Here's the most interesting battle on the track with about 20 laps to go. Lauren Spur and Seiji Daiho bearing down on the 94 of Isaac Leitner. The catch is, they're all 3 laps down. Leitner in the 94 currently holds 6th. Burr and Daiho wanted as Kelly Posadas looks on. She's running 5th, trying to find a way around these guys. And then a few moments later, Burr would sneak around the outside of the 94. Henry Santos has taken the white flag. Over the past few years, he and Full Throttle Motorsports have been popping up here and there. And now that they've been running more races here in 2014, Santos shows off what he's got with an upset victory in the Vicker Collision and Glass 200. Rounding out the top 5 as well as the remainder of the lead lap would be Harry Asinola, Laura Ocean, Monica Rook, and Kelly Posadas. And now, with one race weekend left, here are your championship contenders. Ryan Matthews leads by 19 points over Jim Hayes. Of course, that is not a very safe lead, but it could have been more dire if Libby Bell, Kevin Monroe, and Jason Bates hadn't had their own problems during the race. The FARC Lone Star Championships weekend at Texas Motor Speedway will be the regular 3-race format, so Jason Bates still has an outside shot if he does very well in the sprint and the feature, the 500-mile feature, while everyone ahead of him falters. It should be a very interesting set of races, as Matthews, Hayes, Bell, and Bates chase their first championship, while Monroe goes after his second. However, we have another battle to keep our eyes on. With his last place finish, Frank Azure lost a lot of ground to his Rookie of the Year rivals. However, because he ran the minimum of 14 races required to remain eligible, Azure could skip the season finale and sit on his 15.3 average. If he does that, Vincenzo Focusato would need to win the sprint to tie Azure, and then do 15th or better to take Rookie of the Year for himself. But if Azure does race, obviously he's going to need to beat his average in order to maintain his distance. All questions will be answered the next time we bring you the action, as the 2014 FARC season finally comes to a conclusion.